ask you something? You're Christian, yeah?
No.
What do you got the cross for in your apartment?
When people talk about True Detective, they often talk about the case, the atmosphere, the ending. But the reason season 1 lingers isn't the murder mystery, it's Rust Cohle. He isn't written like a typical detective. He isn't there to solve a puzzle and go home. He's there to question the assumptions everyone else is comfortable living with. And when he talks about religion, morality, and consciousness, it doesn't feel like random cynicism. It feels structured, intentional, and almost airtight. So the real question isn't whether Rust is depressing, it's whether he has a point.
If the only thing keeping a person decent is the expectation of divine reward, then brother, that person is a piece of shit. And I'd like to get as many of them out in the open as possible.
To understand his argument about religion, you have to start with how he sees being human in the first place. For Rust, awareness isn't a gift, it's the problem.
I think human consciousness was a tragic misstep in evolution. We became too self-aware.
Evolution didn't just make us better at surviving, it gave us the ability to step outside ourselves. We don't just live, we know we're alive and we know we're going to die. That kind of awareness creates pressure no other animal seems to carry. Other creatures just live and die. We spend most of our time thinking about life, measuring it, questioning it, and trying to delay its ending. For Rust, the suffering isn't just about fear, it's about identity. The idea that there is a stable, meaningful self at the centre of all this might be a story we just tell ourselves.
Programmed with total assurance that we are each somebody, when in fact everybody's nobody.
Strip away the narrative and what's left is simpler than we'd like. We are temporary, as individuals, as a species. If you accept that your consciousness might be an accident and your sense of self a construction, that creates a problem. And that's where religion enters the picture.
You figure it's all a scam, huh? All them folks?
Mm-hmm.
They just wrong.
Oh yeah.
When Rust watches a revival tent filled with people looking for hope, despite what he says, he doesn't actually see stupidity. He sees relief. He sees human beings trying to soften the edge of existence. He sees people who cannot tolerate the idea that suffering might not have a larger purpose. In his framework, religion offers structure to chaos, promises that pain is temporary, that injustice will be corrected, that death is not the end. It turns the unknown into a story with an ending. And Rust's objection isn't simply that those stories are false, it's that they function as emotional insurance.
What to say about life? You gotta get together, tell yourself stories that violate every law of the universe just to get through the goddamn day? No.
He's not attacking belief at its most sophisticated level, he's attacking the version that runs on reward and punishment. The version that tells you, behave correctly and you will be compensated, step out of line and you will be judged.
Yeah, well, if the common good's gotta make up fairy tales, then it's not good for anybody.
If goodness depends on a payoff, is it still goodness? If you are kind because you expect heaven, is that moral character, or is it strategy? If you avoid wrongdoing because you fear consequences in the afterlife, is that virtue, or is it compliance? Rust is not arguing that morality doesn't exist, he's arguing that morality built on reward is hollow. And this is where things get complicated. Rust is clearly targeting a specific form of religion, the transactional form.
What do you think the average IQ of this group is, huh?
Can you see Texas up there on your high horse? What do you know about these people?
But that's not the entirety of faith. Many believers would argue they act morally not because of reward but because they believe goodness itself is sacred. Rust doesn't spend much time with that version. He focuses on the vulnerability, the place where morality collapses without supervision. So does he dismantle religion entirely? No. But he does expose something real. If someone's ethical system evaporates the moment the reward disappears, then his criticism lands. And what makes this argument more than just edgy dialogue is the way Rust lives. For a man who believes existence might be a mistake, he takes responsibility with absolute seriousness. He works obsessively, he sacrifices relationships, he ruins his own reputation to catch someone who preys on the weak.
The world needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door.
If life is meaningless, why bother? If the universe is indifferent, why care about justice? This is the paradox of Rust Cohle. He argues that we are biological accidents, but he behaves as if harm still matters. He doesn't need heaven to justify his actions. He doesn't need a divine scoreboard. He does the job because it needs to be done, because that's who he has decided to be.
I know who I am. After all these years, there's a victory in that.
He strips away a higher purpose, but he doesn't strip away responsibility. That's why he's hard to dismiss. And then the series complicates him further. At the end, after he comes close to death, something shifts. Not a conversion, but a subtle adjustment.
It's just one story. The oldest. Light versus dark.
He no longer speaks as if darkness is absolute. He acknowledges the existence of light, not as proof of a divine plan, but as something real nonetheless. The universe might still be vast and indifferent. Consciousness might still be a burden, but within that, human beings are capable of generating meaning anyway. That shift doesn't erase his earlier arguments, it reframes them. Maybe the problem was never that we tell stories, maybe the problem is why we tell them. Are we telling them to avoid fear or to confront it?
Well, once there is only dark. Yes, any light's winning.
So does Rust Cohle have a point? He doesn't prove that all faith is delusion, and he doesn't prove that humanity is a mistake. What he does is more controlled. He removes the safety net. He asks whether your goodness can stand on its own. The question doesn't require agreement, it requires an answer. Let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe if you want more analysis like this.